we have a person in a field that we've never had someone in before, but a very important field, and something that's often overlooked in movies by a lot of people, because nowadays we all think it's CGI or dirt, but it is so important in the field of movies that it's been an Oscar for a very, very long time, because the people in movies know how important this is, and that is we're going to be talking to someone who's an award-winning makeup artist. He has won, he's actually part of the team that got the Academy Award for Benjamin Button. He has Emmys. He's been nominated for stuff like How I Met Your Mother. He's worked on projects like Star Trek 2009, recently Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, John Carter, lots of things. He's working on Infinity War right now, but I highly doubt we're going to get anything about that from him, nor, honestly, would we want to? Would he?
No, I'm completely in the dark about that right now, and I kind of like it that way. I'm usually the first person in line for spoilers, but I think this one time I'm going to try my hardest to not.
That's when he was like, "Yeah, I was doing makeup on Captain Marvel." No.
Tell me
professionals
everything.
don't do that. But so we're gonna be calling up in just a minute, but we're gonna be having Brian Sipe on, who runs Gamut Studios, Gamut Studios, which is a makeup studio. He worked on tons of projects, and he's gonna be able to talk about lots of movies that you love, and hopefully we can get a little bit of insight into a field that I know a lot of us are not as familiar with as we think we are, or as we should be. So let's call him up.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Poison Ivy, and you're listening to Bombad Radio. Enjoy.
Hey, is this Brian Sipe?
This is Brian.
Hi, this is Jeremiah from Bombad Radio, and with me, just so you know, on the call is also Kayla. Not that you can't see us because we're on Skype.
Hi there.
Okay. All right. Hello.
Okay, so welcome to the show, Brian. You're actually the first makeup artist that we've had on the show. I've had people that have worked on all sides of makeup, from special effects to hair, but never actual makeup. So it's quite an honor to have you on the show.
Ah, cool. Well, thank you.
So, we just did an introduction where we were talking about how, makeup's often a field that people tend to forget it's as important as in movies, because it tends to blend in so well. But a lot of people don't know nowadays where makeup ends and CGI starts and so on. So why don't we just start a little bit of how did you get into the field of makeup? What got you to want to do film and TV makeup back in the 80s, I believe?
Yeah, I guess it probably was right around then, 1980, 81. As a kid, guys like me, we all grew up watching, the monster movies, late night, scary cinema, that kind of stuff. And around I think it was 81, 82, when John Carpenter's remake of The Thing came out.
Such a classic.
Yeah, it was really good. And I, again, back in the day when it was videotapes, I would rent it at the local video store, a mom and pop video store, and just watched it all the time. Along with some of the other ones, American Werewolf and, Friday the 13th, Videodrome, all that stuff. But there was something about The Thing that really captured my attention. And right around then, my father, he worked field service for a computer company and would travel a bit. And he was going through an airport one day and got a hold of, or at the stand, there was an issue of a magazine called Cinema Fantastique. And it had Rob Bottin on the cover with like this, the crab head from the movie. And he knew that I'd watched that movie a lot. So he picked up the magazine for me. And I came home and just devoured it, page by page. I still have the copy that I had, and but inside Rob Bottin and some of the other artists, Mike Klug, and some drawings in there, they kind of like detailed and talked about like what they did, how they did the effects for the show, and it was right about then when I think I was about 16, and just kind of thought, wow, this is a job. This is something that somebody can do, and, so why can't I?
I think the very first time I actually noticed how, people would say Star Wars, but I think the first time I noticed how good makeup was as opposed to special effects nowadays, I think was Men in Black, I want to say, when like you could really not see any seams at all until, a giant cockroach came out at the end, but that's different.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, there were some fantastic makeups that Rick and his, massive crew, makeups and puppets and people in suits and all kinds of stuff like that. Right around then, that's when I started, buying, Fangoria magazine, and reading more about some of the other people in the business, Tom Savini or Cinemagic, John Dodds, and I mean, all kinds of people that were, doing this kind of stuff that interested me. And that's, when I started back then, before the internet, it was buying books, buying magazines, and theater makeup was really the closest thing that we all kind of, could glom onto and learn from, before the mid 80s came out and, happened. And that's when that's when some of the explosion started to happen with the makeup effects business and more information just started getting out there.
Okay. So I'm curious because, we've, I remember seeing things like in 2000 when the original X-Men came out, they talked about how Rebecca Romijn's Mystique makeup was like 6 hours to put on and a long time to take off. But like for these makeup jobs, like I remember seeing on your site, you're talking about Drax was like 80 minutes to put on and so on. For these makeup jobs, how do you gauge how long it's going to take to put on the makeup well before you put it on? And how do you get to test this wonderful makeup to know what it's going to look like before you have to, put it on the actor and spend hours and hours and hours making sure that it's perfect? And really, do you do that every single day? How many days do they set up? How many days do you actually have to put on full makeup for all these people?
I mean, let's see, beginning of the question. Yeah, I mean, I know that Gordon Smith was the original makeup artist who designed it and did the Rebecca Romijn version of Mystique. I think I had heard it was longer than that at times, especially in the beginning, to do that makeup. I mean, that's an iconic makeup in the beginning of itself. And Gordon was one of the first makeup effects people to utilize silicone prosthetics. So a lot of those pieces were silicone, whereas other people were using foam latex and stuff like that. Although the system that he used was a little bit laborious to make, and the gluing down was a problem, just because it would take so long. I worked for a company at the time, Captive Audience, where we actually one of the creative consultants for the company, Greg Canham, and Wes Wofford, we banded together, mostly them. I helped with some of the mold making process at that time, and we came up with our own silicone prosthetic system that kind of streamlined it a bit for us, and we were able to make things quicker. I came along in the X-Men world. I came along on, I think it was the 4th or 5th movie,
Days of Future Past, I believe,
to do Jennifer Lawrence's. Excuse me?
Days of Future Past with Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They had already done her makeup kind of the way Gordon did in the First Class. And what I've been told and what she's told me was that I think it was like 7 makeup artists, and it took, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours to put her in makeup, and then she'd have to go work. And then it was, like a 2-hour process just to, de-rig her and then, try and get a little bit amount of sleep and then turn around and do it again. So my job on that show, I was hired by a company called Legacy Effects. We all kind of, had a plan, to try and streamline the process. And we eventually ended up getting her makeup down to 3 makeup artists in about 3 hours.
Oh, wow! How were you able to change it? Like, is it less makeup? Is it just more strategically used? What changed?
I saw that in the article that you guys managed to cut Drax's application time like drastically. How do you manage that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, from the time that, Gordon first did, Rebecca's makeup to the time that, I got a crack at Jen's, the makeup products have changed, and when we had the hindsight, we could look at it, okay, just go, okay, how can we make this better? How can we make it faster and, stronger? Same thing with Drax. I mean, the original Drax team, led by David White, in the UK, it was, again, full silicone prosthetics, and I think they were a team of, 4 or 5, and it would take them about anywhere from 3.5 to 5 hours to put him in makeup. and I, was asked to take a look at it and see what we could do. There was approaches, thought, it's like, well, let's make like a suit for him or a shirt or, whatever. And I wanted to use a material called a prosthetic transfer, which is prosthetics basically made out of glue, and it almost, you almost put them on like tattoos, like a little kid's tattoos, with water, and it transfers onto the body. So, I mean, given that task, we test, we resculpted the makeup, and I'm just, devising in my head and, doing tests and trying to figure it out so that when we actually go to see David, we've got it kind of worked out. We did do a couple of makeup tests at Legacy Effects, with like we had like a bodybuilder come in, and we would, okay, this is how we'll do the color. This is how we'll do this. All the time thinking, okay, we just need to cut this down, as much as possible. Again, we had the hindsight of, beautiful designs that David White did. And so it was a matter of, okay, we know what it looks like now. We know how it needs to perform. How can we make it faster and better and stronger? And then when you finally get to do David, we ended up doing, it was 3 makeup artists, and our first makeup test on him was about 2.5 hours. When we actually started doing it for the film, we had a couple of the original members, Rob Pritchard and John Moore, myself, and John Moore and Rob Pritchard came from England. He was part of the original Drax team, and they got to learn our system, the way that we wanted to do the makeup. And, we added in the local from Atlanta, Matt Sprunger, and then myself. By the end of the show, I mean, we were doing his makeup in about an easy 80 minutes, down from 5 hours. On a good day, we could get it down to, under 70.
That's incredible.
And on a film like
this, I mean, makes actors really happy, because that's, that's 3 to 4 more hours they get to sleep.
Sleep, eat, happy. Not be stuck in a trailer, right?
Yeah, makes producers happy, because then it's, more time on set, less overtime. But but it's also a matter of, I think he looked great in the second movie, and there he was really happy with it, because you could see more of his actual body. You could see, like when he flexed, you could see his muscles moving, and he was really happy with it, and really happy with the time.
Yeah, no kidding. Gosh.
And one of my favorite makeup effects that you've done is one that I know caused some controversy because fans don't always know what they're talking about. But you did the work in X-Men Apocalypse on Oscar Isaac, both his full bald Egyptian one, which is a ton of makeup, if people don't know that, and his Apocalypse look, which I know when that first image came out, it must have really frustrated you. People said he looks like Power Rangers ooze, and he's all purple, and he's terrible, and knowing that how much work you put on that makeup, that must have really frustrated you to see all the response to an image that just happened to be in purple light.
Yeah, it does, and we would, when all that stuff broke, I mean, me and Oscar, we would sit there, and Alexei Dimitri, he was going to help me with apply that makeup. We would sit there and we just look at it and go like, oh, come on, really? Give us a break. And, it's like, you can obviously see that everybody's purple in the scene, So, I think it's just, people who are maybe fans but don't know any better. I mean, even some of the people in my business, they weren't happy with the designs that we did. But, I think the one thing that we have to remember as, hired gun artists is that we have to find that middle ground to satisfy as many people as possible. I know a lot of hardcore Apocalypse and Marvel fans, they have that vision of Apocalypse in their head. Which I know that, there are some people out there who have done a great version. Lee Joyner, in LA, he did a version of Apocalypse for, I think, San Diego Comic-Con. And it's pretty spot on to the design. And we did have a version that started to lean itself a little bit more towards that, but the way that, I approach makeups, I did the sculpture on his face. We had a lot of the stuff at Legacy Effects, grown, designed in the computer and grown, stuff part of his helmet and stuff like that. But the thing that people often forget is that, you have Oscar Isaac in there, who's a fantastic actor, coming off of Ex Machina and other stuff. But, he's got a look and people want to relate. And so if you take the design sometimes so far away from the actor, it's really kind of hard to relate to the character. Or, sometimes, the prosthetics, if, they might get too thick, too big, that at a point it all of a sudden becomes so much digital cleanup, that it's no longer even your makeup, or the actor at that point.
When I went and saw the 2009 reboot of Star Trek, I think it was, my mom was like genuinely miffed that you couldn't tell it was Eric Bana.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. She was like, I'm just annoyed that I can't see Eric Bana's face. And I was like, Mom, that's not the point.
I thought you see a lot of Eric in there.
You do, but my mom was there to see Eric Bana, and she didn't get to see him in his full glory, and I guess she was just...
Yeah, she wanted to see his hair.
People wanting to get a connection to the actor, and when you take them so far into a character, at a certain point, they're like, okay, well, now I'm going to be picky. And it's like, but it looks great. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it too, a lot of that decision too, not only comes from us as the artists, but from the studios, from the director, producers. I worked on Big Mama's House years and years ago, and we had done actually a makeup test that made him look like real, like beautiful old woman, but you didn't see Martin in it anymore. And the studios just went, you know what, we're paying for Martin. We want to, we just don't want his voice coming out. We want people to see part of Martin in there. Same thing for Oscar. It's just like, they don't want to completely lose him because it's like, they're paying for him. They want that connection. They want, you don't want to, bury your actor, as well, just so it becomes so frustrating.
Yeah.
Sometimes the makeup process can be, hard enough as it is that, you don't want them so deep in rubber that, they're just, lost and uncomfortable.
And isn't it also like, if you did like actual apocalypse look, you'd have trouble with mouth movements, being able to read that, and it'd be harder for the actor to actually act with that much prosthetic on them, wouldn't it?
I mean, at times, yes, and it could be, especially with Oscar's face. If you were going to try and do a full, apocalypse, like Lee did, he did a great version, but you have no idea who the person is underneath. That's part of it. That's part of Hollywood.
One thing I wanted to ask about is, you have a great story on your blog about Oscar doing his the bald scene where they transfer the Apocalypse transfers into him, and how you had to be able to do it without cutting his hair at all because they needed his curly hair. How in the world can you make someone that realistically bald and clean of hair without it doesn't, like, you can't tell he has hair.
He has so much thick hair in real life.
He does. You know what? I will absolutely tell you that he does. He's got a whole lot of hair, big, deep, thick hair. And we unfortunately, that particular shot was done so late in the schedule that, close to when we wrapped. So, and he was going on to a whole other film right afterwards. So we couldn't cut his hair. So we had to, or we couldn't cut, most of it. We actually, we were able to bring him down. So, the other film he was on was The Promise, which was, a period piece, and, so we could, bring the sides of his head, his hair down, to a level that would still make it look period when he got into, the next role. We cut his hair as short as we could here and there. And then, it was myself and Mike Ornelas did the makeup on the day. And we just told production, it's just going to take a while. And we went through and, did it just very, old school, it's kind of like when you pull up, go through the theater books and stuff like that, Richard Corson's theater, makeup book, they show these ways of, how to, they used to use soap to flatten the hair. We had like really strong gels that we could use, but it was really just going, section by section, from the back of his head all the way to the front and the sides, and just, and combing and gelling and drying and layering, all the way up until, so that basically when you looked at him, as is, it was just, it was getting it as flat as possible to his skull. And then from there, actually, we ended up using 3 different kind of bald caps on him just to kind of contain the hair and really just, pull everything into place and into shape.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram, and I can't even get my hair in a wig cap successfully, so I was so impressed.
yeah. It was, but that was like one of those, things that, was incredibly satisfying for us. Because, a lot of times when you do a makeup, you can do monsters, you can do this, you can do fantasy characters, and it's really cool. It can be fun and, and successful. But when things get really satisfying is when you do these realistic makeups. Because everybody knows what a bald guy's going to look like. Everybody's going to know what, a shaved head looks like or and when you can kind of sell that and even in person, it worked really well. That's when it becomes very satisfying.
I think it was Harrison Ford on the set of Force Awakens who thought his hair was a wig and was very annoyed when it wasn't. So congratulations for fitting that luscious wig-like hair under all those caps.
Yeah. He's got a lot of hair.
And Guardians of the Galaxy, didn't a lot of the cast in that movie shave their head? At least I know in the first one, I know Karen Gillan shaved her head, and that scared people when she threw her wig out to the audience at Comic-Con. They're like, what?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, we had the same issue with her. It became a situation where it's years later. Her hair has grown out and wants to be a girl now, and and obviously she's had her Doctor Who career, and she's had the Guardians with Nebula, and she's going off. I mean, she just directed her first film, and she's to shave her head again, starts to limit her, and and again, and she didn't want to go through another 5 to 10 years of having her head shaved, so we had to devise a way to still create the Nebula design. With her hair, and she's got just as thick a hair as Oscar does, but it was down to her shoulders. Again, but we approached it, really similarly, the same way. The makeup team, we're able to make it. Lexi Dimitri and Chris Nelson, Tina Fabulike helped design, helped do, like the hair wrap on those days and the gel down. Yeah, I think it came off, pretty amazing for what we were working with.
The second movie, definitely her, Nebula and Drax and them, they look better, which is really good because they looked pretty good in the first one, but the second one, like it was seamless. It was very, very good.
Yeah. We're all pretty happy with
seamless is a perfect word for it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thanks for my crew. I had an amazing crew on that show. I mean, it was like a dream team of people, and it really paid off.
I feel like you guys need like team shirts.
Yeah. Some of us ended up getting some, like some of the team members, we ended up doing, some of the players did that.
So in a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, how big is the makeup team? How many people do you have for a project like that to do it every single day?
In the beginning, about the first 6 weeks or so, where we did a lot of the Ravager shots, I think I had about 28 people, so that we could do, at any one point we could do, either the Guardians, or we would do Yondu and the Ravagers, or Taserface and the Ravagers, and it was a lot of big makeups, a lot of big people, big shots. One of my favorite moments on that show was early on in January of last year, where we had gone there to do the makeup tests to show James, put him out there in front of camera and everything. And at one point, I think it was when we had done Yondu, and then we had done all these Ravagers. So there was literally like maybe 15 or 16 guys standing up there against the blue screen in full makeup and beautiful costumes, and a bunch of us just kind of stood back and looked, and we're just like big smiles on our faces, and we're just like, yeah, it's like, this is why we do this.
Good job, guys. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's not often that we can do that anymore with CG and stuff, but it's like, yeah, we're looking at all this and we're just like, this is the moment, that we dreamed of as little kids, seeing all of this.
Yeah, and good makeup is kind of like good writing. You only notice it if it's bad. So even if it's something totally glorious and seamless, an audience isn't quick to notice it because it's so good, we don't acknowledge it.
That's right. That's very true. And one last quick question about Guardians of the Galaxy before I want to move on to a slightly different subject, but I forgot what they were right this second. The gold people, how much of that is makeup versus CG?
Yeah. You know what? I mean, the Legacy, we had done some makeup tests for the gold people. I mean, I will say that John Blake and his team were responsible for the gold people. I will say that they did do, I mean, there was a lot of gold people. I mean, he came up with the whole system with, different gold paints and different gold powders so that, you could get the right kick and get the right everything, and not just look like like a bad sprayed on gold makeup. So they, I'm not sure what they did CG wise. I'm sure that they did. I know they had talked about it as being part of the process was to enhance a little bit of an inner glow from it. But that's all makeup. There's a lot of gold people.
It's a good thing highlighters are in right now.
Yeah.
Another subject I want to talk about is Academy Awards when it comes to makeup is a category that a lot of people complain about because they usually don't know what goes into it. And you've worked on movies like Benjamin Button and the 2009 Star Trek that have won Academy Awards for makeup. And when it comes to makeup, I know for every Wolfman that wins, there's a movie like The Iron Lady where people go, "How did that beat Harry Potter?" Or Les Mis saying, "How did that beat The Hobbit?" The Hobbit's all makeup and hair.
Yeah.
And Grand Budapest Hotel beat the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And so could you elaborate what goes into these films so that people can see the makeup job that goes into like a Grand Budapest?
Or the most recent Academy Awards. I don't know.
I mean the one that DC won over Marvel, Suicide Squad.
That's the one I'm talking about. Let's talk about that.
Well, there was, I'm not a part of that committee. I'm not a part of the whole, Oscars thing, so I don't know the ins and outs and the who votes and what's in that. I did read an interesting article that I can, probably badly paraphrase, but it was talking about, the unrest and the unhappiness of, Suicide Squad winning over, the Star Trek. And what they mentioned in this article was kind of they talked about, like in the world of makeup. And again, this is only pertains to this because I think, this logic did not pertain to some of the other times that you've talked about, that you mentioned. But like when they were talking about Suicide Squad, when they were saying, when the Academy voters and the people looked at it for the nomination and for the vote, they looked at what categories were satisfied. You had in Suicide Squad, you had the really cool crocodile guy. You had, Harley Quinn's makeup. You had the Joker makeup. You had straight makeup. You had character makeup. You had all these different things in hair, and all these all these different facets of makeup, quote, makeup. Whereas I think, again, the article pointed out that maybe what they did in Star Trek was they just kind of pushed forward with the special effects makeup stuff. So what the article seemed to say was that, it's like, well, when you look at the two, as beautiful as Star Trek was, this stuff, it was like, they covered the gamut of what makeup is. That was for Star Trek versus Suicide Squad. I think, when it comes to the first Guardians of the Galaxy versus, Hotel Budapest, I quite honestly, David White was robbed. Hardcore robbed. Just not cool. And I don't know why. Because when you watch that first movie, it's 95% hair and makeup. Mm-hmm. Every single frame of that movie has got something hair, specialty hair and makeup in it. So, and everything from, Chris's straight makeup, which there's, corrective, there's all kinds of correct character stuff that they do for him, to Drax, to, the pink people, the blue people, the yellow people. Everything. All the Ravagers that were originally in that, so, that was, a shame. Hands down, that one should have won.
I feel like the pink is a really hard one to nail down. I don't know why, but you see lots of blue aliens and green aliens, and I don't know why, but for some reason when I saw the pink ones, I was like, that seems unique to me, and I thought maybe it's just hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and the yellow ones too. They did it great. Just like the way that they did it, and the way that actually John Blake and his team did some of those in the second movie. It was like it was done. It was it's like translucent. You can see it as skin. It's not just this thick makeup that's just put on. It looked real.
And then on the other end, I was Insta-stalking you, and on there you mentioned you had a picture of the aliens from the beginning of Star Trek Into Darkness, and that they're like cakey clay makeup that took like 8 hours to set. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but it looks so good.
Yeah, that was like one of those things where, because I come with this new school where, I don't want to be laboring over somebody for 8 hours. I don't want to be, that's why when I look at, Drax's makeup, it's just like, I don't want to do that to him. I don't want to do it to me. And, and it's just like, and I think it can be done faster and differently, and then we were able to achieve that. For the first Star Trek, or for that one, the Into Darkness, when we did the clay people, that was I was working for David Anderson at the time, and he and Jamie Kelman, another makeup artist, were trying to come up with this look that JJ had in his head that seemed to defy all of everything. And they did like tests and tests and tests, and when they finally were able to get something that he was like, yeah, that's it. I mean, the process became like this, this huge monstrous thing, to achieve this look, and it doesn't seem like it would, but that was an incredibly complex makeup, and there was a whole bunch of us that we'd get up at, our call was midnight, and we would start at midnight, and just to have them ready by 8-9 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
And I mean, I don't, I'm, other than doing. Boy, I mean, that was, sure. I mean, people might have like a whole bunch of different approaches, but that was the one approach that worked successfully. And I don't know if it could have been done any faster.
Wow. If you'd had to do it for a second movie, maybe you would have come up with something.
Yeah.
We're not doing the 8-hour thing this time, you guys.
Right.
So when it comes to makeup, I know when it comes to like legends in the field, there's two people that come to mind. We've already mentioned the Rick Baker, who passed away a couple years ago, and the other one is one you've gotten to work with. I don't know if you worked with Rick Baker, but I know you got to work with Greg Canham. On
yeah. Oh, no, you know what? Rick Baker's still alive. Rick Baker's still alive.
I thought he died in 2014.
Dick Smith Dick Smith passed away a bit ago. He was kind of like the grandfather of our makeup world. Rick Baker retired.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. After Maleficent or Men in Black or something like that?
It was after like one of the Men in Blacks. And I mean, I think he consulted on Maleficent. Another makeup artist, Arian Toyden, ended up doing that with Rick and through Rick, to do Angie's makeup. And, but yeah, no, he's still alive and kicking, and you can actually Insta stock him as well. He's
I will.
Doing other kinds of stuff that's
I'm on
incredible. Yeah.
But you did get to work with Greg Canham quite a bit, didn't you? With several films, I believe.
Yeah, when I had my time over at Captive Audience, Greg was the the creative consultant for the company, and so yeah, we worked on quite a few shows together over there.
With some of the old school guys to the new school guys, was there ever sort of when it comes to special effects and so on, there is always some sort of arguments, to do with the old school way or the new school way. Did you ever have any of that sort of arguments with someone like Greg Canham, who has been doing this for decades and decades and decades since?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. He's been around for a very long time. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of, I mean, whether it's old school, new school. I mean, sometimes it's just going to be artists versus artists. Everyone kind of has their way of, how they like to park their car, and people, some people like to drive in straight, some people like to back in, want that quick exit. It's just that. It's just, coming down to, tastes, coming down to experience, what we've done and what, was successful. And, we want to, carry forward or bring into another project. And then that's when you go into like the testing phase, and it's just like, okay, this is what we did before. Okay. This is what some of us have done now. This is what I heard somebody in England did. Let's try this, one thing about this particular business is you really can't stop growing. Otherwise, you just kind of get left behind. It's been growing and moving so fast in the last few years that, technology and the materials and approaches, I mean, it's all, it changes really quickly. So you have to keep up. Okay. But,
even in like the last 90 years with like Jack Pierce and Frankenstein and all that, like imagine just in the last 90 some odd years, how much has it changed? It's incredible.
Yeah. Night and day,
And judging from your Twitter, we're almost going to wrap this up. Judging from your Twitter, you're a fan of a lot of things. Has there been a project that you've gotten to work on that made you the most excited as a fan, that you had to temper your fanboy reactions to be able to work on that project?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of projects that I've been very proud of. Let's see. I mean, working on a Star Trek, was something, again, I grew up watching, the original series, with my family. And so that was quite exciting, to be asked on that, I mean, my first job on that was with, Joel Harlow's team on the initial reboot, and then I was asked again to work on it, for Into Darkness. And that was, again, that was a fun one. But I will say that one of the, as far as the fanboy is concerned, I mean, I don't know, I don't necessarily get, starstruck or anything like that. I call it meat and deceit. It's just, when I get there, it's a job, so it's hard sometimes for the fanboy for me to come out, because all of a sudden I'm just like, I just like switch into like work mode and just kind of like, what do we got to do? What do we got to do?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, everyone's just there to do their job.
Everyone's there, yeah, and I mean, most actors, they're there to do their job, and and we're there to to make them look a certain way so that they can convincingly do their job as well, or help them kind of push whatever they're going to do to that next level. But fanboy wise, I mean, one of the great moments that I've had was I was helping Joel do Eric's makeup. He had me come in to assist him on that. For a little bit on that Star Trek, and we're sitting there starting to do it and kind of go through, and into the trailer walks Leonard Nimoy, and he's gonna get his ears on, and it's just like, wow, that's cool. I mean, that's one of those moments where it was had a little fanboy flush, I guess. And and I had a fanboy miss, which I'm heartbroken about. Was I worked on Ali with Will Smith, and I had done Will's makeup on Monday, and then I wasn't scheduled to go back on until Wednesday. So of course I go back on Wednesday, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Ali was here yesterday." What?
Oh no!
Like, and Miss Muhammad is like, "Oh no, you got to be kidding me!" Like that, that would have been another one of those moments where I probably would not have contained myself on. But,
reaching back in time and high-fiving your 6-year-old self, being like, "We did it, buddy.
Yeah.
We did it."
Was it?
Yeah.
Is it intimidating as a makeup artist to step into a franchise like, say, Terminator, where you have, Stan Winston won Best Visual Effects and Best Makeup, I believe, with Terminator 2, stepping into a franchise that's known for makeup and visual effects and how seamless it is, and having to live up to someone like Stan Winston or those type of people I believe you stepped in for 2 of them, didn't you, for Salvation and Genesis?
Yes, yeah. You know what, I will say for Salvation, I stepped into it as an extra pair of hands. I was helping a friend who was working for Legacy Effects. He was leading out a lot of those makeups on set, Mike Smithson, and he had me come out and help him do the full body stuff that was done on Sam, and and that kind of a thing. For Terminator Genesis, I mean, luckily for us, or for me, in regards to this specific question, Legacy Effects, the 4 owners from Legacy are the 4 main people that were with Stan for so many years.
Nice.
So, when Stan passed away, he was another one who passed away recently. When he passed away, the 4 guys, they to carry on his legacy, created Legacy Effects. So when it came, time to do another Terminator movie, it's like, who else are you going to go to? So, and it was actually pretty cool. John Rosengrant, one of the bosses there, he worked on every single one. I mean, that was, I think, one of his first films was the first Terminator. So that was pretty cool. And but yeah, some of it, some of it's just fun, because you do have, obviously, a little bit of that fanboy. It's like where you have seen these movies, and they're some of the ones that propelled you into doing this work, or stuff that you poured over pictures and trying to figure out how they did it. When you get a chance to do it yourself, again, it's you get to kind of come full circle. I will say the biggest shoes that I think I had to fill was David White's for Guardians of the Galaxy. I think he had done such a tremendous job on that first film that, coming into it, I'm just like, Jesus, I've got all right, we got to really be good on this. We got to, we can't, get sloppy.
The bar is high. The bar is high.
Bar was set incredibly high, and I think I don't know what he's had to say about it, but I hope he talks proudly.
Last one from me before we wrap it up, and last one from me, then we'll ask Kayla. But I imagine, since you said you got into makeup and so on because you really like stuff like The Thing and those type of movies, I imagine it must have been really fun with you when you got to do your own monster movies like Cabin in the Woods and Exorcism of Emily Rose, where you got to do the horror makeup that really made a lot of makeup really famous.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, again, Cabin in the Woods, I think, was one of the funnest experiences I've ever had on a film. Again, I was working for Dave Anderson, they're a family legend working in the industry. Dave, called me up. We went up there, and it was a matter of, okay, he had like this trailer full of prosthetics that he had just run from, all these just whatever molds that they had in the shop, and I mean all kinds of stuff. So it's like, it was really what it was, and I likened it to something like Top Chef before Top Chef ever came out. You walked into this trailer, which was the pantry, and he'd go, okay, today I need from you, like when we did the whole melee scene at the end where everything's going crazy. He's like, I need 2 zombies and a mutant, or I need, a mutant, a zombie, and, some other something, and we're like, and then, we had, 2 trailers of makeup artists being like, okay. So then you just kind of go through and you start picking appliances, like, I could use this, I could do this, I'll do this. And, then it was just kind of like, go, and everybody kind of had, an hour and a half to do makeups, and it was just kind of like kick as many out as you could. And as soon as they were done, they just got pulled out onto set and used in the big scenes. And it was fun. I remember I was in this trailer. I think who was with me? There was, and the makeup artist Dave Snyder and Mike Fields from Vancouver, and Jeff Redknapp from, Vancouver. We were all there in this trailer, and it was just this playful, competition where you kind of like do one, and then everyone would kind of step back and go, oh yeah, that's cool. You look over at, I'd look over at Mike's makeup and be like, oh man, it's like, that's cool. I should have done something like that. And then you kind of do your next one, and then like the next one just gets up, and then the next one gets up, and so that like all of us it was great playtime. And
it sounds like a makeup jam session,
or like the show Face Off, like the competition show on Sci-Fi Face Off. But
this was beyond Face Off,
but lots more money.
But it was just fun. Yeah, a makeup jam session, was just kind of it. But it was just fun. Again, it was playtime. And that's when, sometimes your creative juices just flow, and you're just, like, yeah, and everybody's like, yeah, that'd be good. And, hey, what if you did this? And like, yeah, that's cool. And, it's great when you get into an environment like that.
I'm also taking note that if I'm ever an extra on something that has lots of special effects makeup, go last.
Yes, yeah.
That's when they've got it all worked out. Got it, noted.
Yeah.
So, Kayla, do you have any more questions before we wrap this up?
Yeah. I was on your website. Your resume is super impressive, and one thing caught my eye more than anything was that it said you had something to do with the pre-ride show of the Alien ride at Disney World.
Wait, which one was that? That was
the Alien. The extra is the terrestrial encounter. The terror was.
Yes.
I have vivid memories of running out of that screaming as a child.
Well, you know what? There was the one thing that I worked on with that was not the Alien, because I think that was all Imagineering. At one point, they did I think a little bit of a reboot on that, and what they did was, as you walked down the hallways in the queue and waiting in line for 3 hours because you didn't get your Fast Pass. I think it was actually before Fast Pass was invented. But
I didn't even make it into the ride. I was so scared.
Oh, really? Yeah. They had like this. It was these video monitors that had kind of like these. I mean, they were little, like these kind of goofy little aliens, with 3 antenna and all kinds of stuff, and they were just like talking to you and just kind of filling your time as you walk towards the inevitable ride.
Yeah. No, I didn't even make it to the ride.
Yeah.
I saw that and I just started laughing because my mom was so annoyed with us. She was like, come on, you guys, it's fun. It's going to be fun. And I was like, I think my brother ended up going, but she sure as hell didn't get me in that ride.
Do you have any more questions, Kayla?
Oh, yeah. There's one last one. Is there any example of special effects makeup that just to this day impresses the hell out of you? And you either think that's incredible, I could never, or that's incredible, why didn't I think of it?
Boy, I mean, that's hard to say because, I mean, at a point, as artists or as, people in the industry, you probably I think we all look at something and go like, oh, I might have done something a little different. And I guess maybe the best answer, and it almost kind of sounds like a suck-up answer, but, I'm really impressed, these days. I mean, we had like this, like the Dick Smith era and the Rick Baker, Rob Bottin, Rick Baker, Stan Winston era, and how all these new eras. but makeup, I mean, at a point you kind of think like, okay, like the engine's built, this car can only go so fast, it can only be so good. But I'm always surprised, that like how much cool stuff is still being made, with sometimes with help with, CG here and there. But there's, some of the stuff that we see in movies now are so incredible and so convincing. One of my favorite movies, I gotta say, that really handheld well with makeup and visual effects was Pan's Labyrinth.
Of
you just watch that. Yeah, that's one of those movies where you just go like, oh, would have loved to have worked on that. That would just how amazing, all that stuff was, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, we wanted to get one of the people who worked on that on the show. We're still working on it at some point, so that would be really fun.
We did get Doug Jones, but he's not the same person. He just does all the stunts. You put the makeup on Doug Jones, he doesn't do the makeup.
Yeah. No, Doug's an amazing guy. I worked with him on many
Warriors of
projects.
Virtue for one, the kangaroo one.
Yes. It's funny. I just saw that he posted that on Instagram today. But yeah, Warriors of Virtue. That was 6 months in China. Lots of fun.
And I know right now you're working on a film that you can't talk about, but we're all going to watch it next May. Every one of us is going to watch it, and probably half the world.
Yes.
Starring everyone.
Yes, I think.
Starring every person ever.
Everybody, and I think that's going to be one of those. I think another one of those moments that's going to be pretty exciting when I'm there on set. I think that's going to be one of those moments.
And this is with how many people are in that movie? I imagine there's hundreds of people.
A gazillion. I mean,
Yeah, and for those people that are talking about
they're going to have to make up a new word besides gazillion to describe how many people are in that movie.
And for those who don't know what we're talking about, it's Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah, there was an aerial shot of just like a sea of trailers. I was like, yep, that's
really?
right.
That's just Robert Downey Jr. That's just his trailer. His trailer part.
No, base camp's pretty big.
No, Robert Downey Jr. and I have had words. If you see him again, you tell him I'm looking for him.
All right.
But thank you so much for your time.
Awesome.
And
thank you so much.
Yeah, and we definitely look forward to seeing the awesome work you guys are all going to do on Infinity War, because that movie, oh boy.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.